Welcome back to the man cave. So we're going to look at the radiator on this Corvette today. In checking the fluid, this radiator is at least half of a gallon low. And so we're going to take a look and figure out where that's coming from. I don't see anything up here on top, so we're going to lift this vehicle up and take a look at it from the bottom. So if you look right along here, you can see that the entire way across this support right here for this radiator is wet. And here you can actually see a little coolant starting to drip there and there both. So we know that this radiator is bad and it's going to have to be either repaired or replaced. So the first thing that we're going to do, we're going to get set up so that we don't get coolant all over the floor. And we're going to loosen this petcock and drain this radiator into this bucket. Okay, once we've got the coolant drained, we're going to go ahead and remove this lower radiator hose. We'll do that by removing this clamp or loosening this clamp. And I like to just push this clamp up and out of the way. Just push it right back up the hose a little ways. And then we're going to go ahead and just ease this hose off. Now you want to be careful because this thing will lose coolant all over the place. And then we're just going to pull this hose back and move it out of the way. Now we're going to let the car down and we're going to start doing some stuff from the top. Alright, so next we're going to go ahead and remove this upper radiator hose. While I've got this radiator out, I'm also going to flush the cooling system. I'm going to flush out the engine. So I'm going to remove the thermostat as well. Again, we just pull this hose loose and I like to just run it up the hose so that it stays there and stays back out of my way. So next we're going to go ahead and remove this radiator shroud or fan shroud. And we do that by removing these two bolts here on the top. Then this shroud should just come up and kind of slip back out of the way. Might have to pull the fan off of this to get things out, we'll see. Okay, so next we're going to take these radiator supports out. We'll just pull these brackets off out of the way and I'm going to just set them up in here for right now. Come back and finish this other side. And then we're just going to pull this radiator up out of here. So it looks to me like this radiator is leaking all the way along this core right here. Now if this were an automatic transmission car, it would have transmission cooler lines coming into this side right over here. Since this is a standard transmission car, it does not have those. so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and remove this thermostat. Just start by removing the housing. I'm going to put a new thermostat in this. Also going to put some new bolts in it. Looks like somebody decided to use a bunch of silicone to put this together. So we're going to pull this thermostat out. Now this thermostat, what this does is it allows the engine to get up to operating temperature. Now inside of here we have a wax pellet, and as that heats up it expands, and as it expands it will actually push this valve open. I don't know if you can see that moving. But it pushes that valve open, which allows coolant to flow back through the radiator. And then when it cools off, it closes back down and allows the engine to run at a good operating temperature. All right, so we're going to go ahead and put this housing back on without the thermostat. And this will allow us to go ahead and flush out the cooling system, the engine and the heater core on this car. And to do that, what we're going to do is we're going to run water through these hoses and try and get all the junk out from inside. And we don't have to have this super tight, so we're just going to snug it down a bit. It's going to get a little, it's going to lose a little water up here on the top, but I'm okay with that because we're going to clean the engine later anyways. So what I'm going to do to flush this system is I'm going to run water down through this, and it'll just come out the bottom side, and I'm going to run that till it runs clean. I don't know, we'll see what it looks like to decide whether I'm going to pull the heater hoses off of this or not. I may pull the heater hoses off and flush the heater core separately. So anyways, I'll do that off camera, and then we'll come back and we'll put the new radiator in this. So we're going to put the fan and the shroud back in this now, and instead of having the shroud is a little bit difficult to get in and out of here, but with the fan off of it, it changes it and it's much easier. So I pulled the fan off so that we could change this a little easier. Now we're going to go ahead and put the fan back on this. That shroud sitting in there. Just line this up. Now there's some openings in this fan that you can move into position when you're putting the bolts in that simplify things a little bit. It is not a super easy thing to do. I think that is proof once again that those people who design cars don't have to work on them. I think everybody who designs a car should have to work for at least a couple of years in a shop so that they can figure out how much fun it is to work on their designs. These ratcheting wrenches that I have, definitely worth the investment. I would tell you what kind of ratcheting wrenches I have, but that would be an advertisement. Alright, now we're going to go through and double check all of these and make sure that they're tight like they need to be. And then we're going to move this shroud out of the way a little bit. Now we need to make sure that our mounting stuff is all in where it's supposed to be before we start to set that radiator. Because what we don't want to do is wind up getting that radiator half set in place and then having a problem with the mounts, because it's a lot easier to deal with right now. So I inspected that, made sure that the radiator will sit where it's supposed to. Alright, so we've got us a new radiator here, and if you guys remember a little while ago when I showed you the radiator, this one is set up for an automatic transmission. And so right here, it has, inside of here, it has another cooler that cools the automatic transmission. So we're going to ease this into place, maybe. Try not to scrape it up on the edges. Get it set down here right in the mounting brackets where it's supposed to set. Run over to that side, check that mount. Now we'll get our upper mounts and we will set them in place. Get this bolt hole lined up here. The second bolt in it. Get those started, and then we'll come over to the other side and get the other one started. Okay, now we will tighten these down. So as we tighten this up, we just need to make sure that this mount stays where it's supposed to. Alright, then we'll come around and tighten up the other side. Okay, so this radiator just came with the plug here in the bottom. And I'm going to pull this plug out. Anyways, this is the plug that came out of it. And now this is the petcock that came out of the other radiator. Now this can stay up inside the radiator and we can drain the radiator. Now what happens is when you turn this bottom part of this, it opens this valve right here. Look, you can see some holes in it right there. And that allows for the coolant to drain out of the radiator and down through this hole right here so that we can drain the radiator and it keeps us from making a mess. I'm going to go ahead and install this and then we'll put the shroud on and put the bottom hose on so we can work our way up to the top. Alright, so we're going to, if you look here, we've got some clips that this shroud clips into. And so we're going to go ahead and see if we can get this shroud to slip into those clips. Got them started, but we may have to just push down on it a little bit from the top. Well, I think it's pretty much in. Now we're going to take this lower radiator hose. We're going to put it on. And then we'll take this clamp and slip it down here. Alright, now we're going to set this car down and finish up on the top. Alright, so now we're going to bolt this shroud in place. Then I've cleaned up this mount for the thermostat housing, and so we can go ahead and put that in the upper radiator hose in place. Alright, so we're going to put a new thermostat in this car. Now, the thermostat, the way that it works is this end right here, where the spring is at, it has a pellet inside of it. So we always have to put this towards the engine. They used to stamp these, but I don't know why they quit. They don't stamp them anymore. And then of course we got a new gasket that we're going to put on. So anyways, we'll take this thermostat housing and we will bolt it down. Make sure we keep our gasket in the right spot. Gasket tries to move around on us a little bit here. So we'll put those in and we'll just run them down, get them snug. And then we'll come back in just a minute and torque those down. Now, from this, we've got to pull this cap off this top as well. Okay, so we'll put this upper hose on here on this end. We'll go ahead and tighten it up. And then for right now, for the time being, I'll look up the torque specifications and get this torqued down. And I'm going to put the coolant in it. And we will run this for a little while and make sure that we don't have any leaks, and hopefully we've also got the temperature sensor working the way it's supposed to. So I'm going to get a new radiator cap, fill this up, and then we'll come back and start it and run it and make sure we don't have leaks.